The fragile peace in North American trade has been shattered, sending ripples of uncertainty across both sides of the border. For years, the US and Canada have enjoyed a partnership built on trust, open markets, and a shared vision for prosperity. But now, that stability has been upended in a matter of days, leaving businesses, workers, and policymakers scrambling to make sense of the chaos. Just weeks after a promising G7 summit in Alberta, where leaders from the world's most powerful economies gathered to reaffirm their commitment to cooperation, US-Canada relations have taken a sharp, unexpected turn. The optimism that once filled the summit halls has quickly faded, replaced by tension and suspicion. What was supposed to be a new era of collaboration has instead become a battleground for economic interests and political egos. President Trump's fiery social media post abruptly ended ongoing trade negotiations, blindsiding Canadian officials and threatening a fresh wave of tariffs on Canadian goods. The announcement sent shockwaves through both countries, rattling financial markets and leaving exporters and importers on edge. Trucks lined up at border crossings, uncertain if their cargo would be the next target of escalating tariffs. The sense of unpredictability has only deepened as both sides dig in. At the heart of the dispute is Canada's new digital services tax, a bold move aimed at ensuring global tech giants pay their fair share. The tax, which targets revenues from digital services provided by multinational corporations, has sparked fierce debate within Canada and drawn the ire of American lawmakers and business leaders. For many Canadians, it's a matter of economic justice and sovereignty. For the US, it's a direct challenge to its most powerful companies. The White House has responded with outrage, framing the tax as an attack on American industry and innovation. Officials have demanded swift retaliation, warning that any move against US tech firms will be met with forceful countermeasures. American workers and manufacturers already facing global competition now find themselves caught in the crossfire of a rapidly escalating trade dispute. Prime Minister Mark Carney, known for his calm resolve and steady leadership, has refused to back down. He insists that Canada will not be bullied and that negotiations must continue, even as pressure mounts from all sides. Carney's approach is measured but firm, signaling to Canadians and the world that their government will defend national interests while seeking a peaceful resolution. This clash between Trump's aggressive brinkmanship and Carney's quiet defiance has set the stage for a confrontation with real consequences for millions of people. From factory workers in Detroit to tech employees in Toronto, the uncertainty is palpable. Families worry about job security, businesses fear supply chain disruptions, and investors brace for more market volatility. The stakes could not be higher. As storm clouds gather over the continent, the coming days will reveal whether this is merely a passing squall or the beginning of a damaging trade war that could reshape the economic landscape of North America for years to come. The world watches, waiting to see if cooler heads will prevail, or if the storm will break with full force. President Trump's announcement hit like a thunderclap. Trade talks with Canada were abruptly declared over, sending shockwaves through diplomatic circles and the business world alike. The news broke late in the afternoon, catching many off guard and leaving both American and Canadian officials scrambling to respond. The message was clear: new tariffs on Canadian goods would be imposed by July 4th, a date loaded with symbolism for Americans. The threat loomed large over cross-border trade, raising immediate concerns about supply chains, jobs, and the future of North American economic cooperation. Just days earlier, the mood had been optimistic at the G7 summit, where leaders spoke of partnership and progress. Now, that optimism had evaporated, replaced by anxiety and uncertainty. Canadian officials and business leaders were left reeling, forced to reconsider their strategies and brace for potential economic fallout. At the heart of the dispute was Canada's new digital services tax, which Trump framed as a direct attack on American technology giants. What began as a tax disagreement quickly escalated, with Trump elevating the issue into a matter of national pride and sovereignty, rallying his supporters with fiery rhetoric. By threatening tariffs, Trump cast himself as the defender of American workers and industries, wielding economic leverage as a powerful political weapon. The move was designed to pressure Canada into backing down, but it also risked sparking a broader trade war that could hurt both economies. The administration's message was uncompromising: Canada must abandon its digital tax or face severe economic consequences. Behind closed doors, negotiators scrambled to find a way forward, but the public stance remained firm and unyielding. Around the globe, governments and business leaders watched closely, aware that the outcome could set a precedent for future digital taxation and trade disputes. The world was waiting to see if Canada would blink first, or if a new era of economic confrontation was about to begin. The threat of tariffs injected deep uncertainty into North American markets. Investors reacted swiftly, with stock prices fluctuating and analysts warning of potential long-term impacts on growth, investment, and consumer confidence. As the calendar flipped closer to July 4th, the sense of urgency only grew. With every passing day, the stakes climbed higher, and the world watched as the countdown to a possible trade showdown began in earnest. At the heart of a growing international dispute sits Canada's digital services tax, a policy that has become a flashpoint in the already tense relationship between Ottawa and Washington. This new tax, years in the making, is designed to address what Canadian officials see as a long-standing imbalance in how global tech giants are taxed for their activities within Canada's borders. Set to take effect on June 30th, the DST has been the subject of heated debate and intense lobbying from both sides of the border. The countdown to its implementation has only heightened anxieties among tech companies and policymakers alike. The tax imposes a 3% levy on revenues generated by large digital companies. Think of industry titans like Google, Meta, Amazon, and Apple, whose digital platforms are deeply woven into the daily lives of millions of Canadians. Specifically, it targets those earning over $20 million annually from Canadian users, ensuring that only the largest and most profitable tech firms are affected by the new rules. What makes the DST especially controversial is its retroactive nature. Rather than applying only to future earnings, the tax reaches back to revenues from the past 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023, catching many companies off guard and forcing them to recalculate their financial obligations. This retroactivity creates a sudden and substantial $2 billion bill for US-based tech giants, a financial shock that has sent ripples through boardrooms and government offices alike. The US government views this move as both punitive and unfair, arguing that it disproportionately targets American companies and undermines international tax negotiations. In contrast, Canadian officials insist the DST is about fiscal fairness and protecting national sovereignty, ensuring that companies profiting from Canadian consumers contribute their fair share to public coffers. Ottawa points to similar digital taxes already implemented in several European countries, arguing that Canada is simply following a global trend toward taxing digital commerce more equitably. However, the Trump administration has shown little interest in this broader context, focusing instead on what it sees as a direct attack on American economic interests. For Washington, the DST singles out American firms, raising the specter of retaliatory tariffs and escalating trade tensions between the two allies. With both sides digging in, the powder keg is now lit, and the world is watching to see what happens next. Ottawa's response to Trump's ultimatum was calm but firm. Prime Minister Carney, known for his technocratic style, refused to accept that talks were over. Instead, he insisted negotiations would continue, shifting the narrative from capitulation to quiet defiance. Carney's strategy, avoid escalation, keep the door open for diplomacy, and force the US to make the next move. This approach denies Trump an easy political win and places the burden of action on Washington. The contrast is stark: Trump's public disruption versus Carney's steady persistence. The world is watching a test of Will's impulsive power versus patient diplomacy. The outcome will shape US-Canada relations for years. Despite Trump's bluster, his administration is preparing a formal legal path to retaliation. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent downplayed a total breakdown, signaling the US trade representative would lead the response. A Section 301 investigation is expected, targeting Canada's DST as unfair to US companies. This process gives the US legal cover to impose tariffs, matching the estimated $2 billion impact of the tax. The strategy combined public threats with methodical legal action, maximizing leverage. The US aims to pressure Canada to repeal the tax while preparing for a trade war if it refuses. This two-pronged approach keeps Canada off balance and the world on edge. The weapons of trade war are being readied. Tariffs aren't just political tools, they hit wallets and jobs. When the US imposes tariffs on Canadian goods, American companies pay more, often passing costs to consumers. Prices rise on everything from cars to groceries, and businesses relying on cross-border supply chains face higher expenses. Small businesses are hit hardest, lacking the resources to absorb sudden costs. Tariffs can lead to job losses as companies delay projects or seek cheaper alternatives. Retaliatory Canadian tariffs would hurt U.S. farmers and exporters, while Canadian businesses lose access to their biggest market. The uncertainty alone can freeze investment and hiring. A trade war slows the entire North American economy. The U.S. threat has ignited fierce debate in Canada. Prime Minister Carney's stance is praised by some as defending sovereignty, but critics abound. Conservatives argue for lower domestic taxes and a quick return to talks. The NDP supports taxing tech giants but demands more transparency in negotiations. The Bloc Québécois blames Carney for failing to resolve old tariff disputes, especially those hurting Quebec industries. Business groups warn that the DST's costs outweigh its benefits, urging Ottawa to reconsider. Carney faces pressure to balance principle with economic reality. This isn't the first US-Canada trade clash. Decades of disputes over softwood lumber, steel, and NAFTA have shaped a relationship marked by both cooperation and conflict. Trump's first term saw tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum and a bruising NAFTA renegotiation. The recent G7 summit seemed to promise a new era, but Trump's latest ultimatum shattered that hope. The lesson: no agreement is ever final, and deep economic ties mean domestic policies can spark international crises. The digital services tax fight is just the latest echo of old battles. The cycle of tension and negotiation continues. July 4th nears. The future of US-Canada relations hangs in the balance. If Trump follows through, a tit-for-tat tariff war could erupt, hurting both economies and souring diplomacy. A diplomatic compromise is possible. Perhaps Canada tweaks its tax, and the US backs down. Or the dispute could simmer in legal channels, creating ongoing uncertainty for businesses. The stakes are enormous: $2 billion in daily trade, and millions of jobs depend on stability. This is more than a tax fight, it's a test of whether North America's partnership can survive modern politics. The choices made now will define the future of the world's largest trading relationship.